The year was 1942. World War II raged across the globe, casting long shadows even onto the once peaceful island of Singapore. What began as whispers of war soon transformed into the thunderous roar of Japanese invasion. On February 15, 1942, the impregnable fortress of Singapore fell to the Imperial Japanese Army. This marked not only a turning point in the war, but also the start of a horrifying chapter for the island's Chinese population. This dark chapter would forever be etched in history as the Sook Ching Massacre. The term Sook Ching itself is chillingly deceptive, translating to purification through cleansing in Chinese. However, behind this euphemistic facade lay a brutal campaign of ethnic violence. The Japanese military, driven by a potent mix of imperial ambition and racial prejudice, targeted Singapore's Chinese community. This community, largely descended from earlier waves of immigrants, suddenly found themselves facing a terrifying enemy within the land they called home. Men, suspected of anti-Japanese activities or simply deemed undesirable, were systematically rounded up, tortured, and executed. The Sook Ching Massacre stands as a stark reminder of the horrors that can unfold when racial hatred is allowed to fester and grow. It is a story of unimaginable brutality inflicted upon innocent civilians, leaving behind a legacy of pain and loss that continues to reverberate generations later. But it is also a story of resilience, of a community's enduring spirit in the face of unspeakable tragedy, and a call for remembrance to ensure such atrocities are never repeated. To understand the brutality of the Sook Ching, we must delve into the historical context. Hatred was sown long before the invasion, rooted in Japan's imperial ambitions and prejudices against the Chinese. By the early 20th century, Japan, fueled by nationalism, embarked on aggressive expansion across Asia. They viewed Southeast Asia, including Singapore, as ripe for conquest. Hakoichi promoted Asian unity under Japanese leadership, masking a hierarchical worldview. The Chinese, with their vast diaspora, were seen as a threat. Anti-Chinese sentiment was inflamed by propaganda. This blend of ambition and prejudice led to atrocities in Singapore. The fall of Singapore in 1942 catalyzed the Sook Ching Massacre. The British defeat sent shockwaves through the region. The Japanese saw the Chinese in Singapore as a threat, targeting them for pacification. The Sook Ching Massacre was not a spontaneous act of violence but a meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed operation by the Japanese military administration. At the heart of this operation was the Kempeitai, the feared Japanese military police, known for their brutality and ruthlessness. Tasked with maintaining order and eliminating any potential threats to Japanese rule, the Kempeitai were given a free hand in carrying out this bloody purge. The mastermind behind the operation was Lieutenant General Tomoyuki Yamashita, commander of the Japanese forces in Malaya and Singapore. While the exact extent of Yamashita's knowledge and direct involvement in planning the Sook Ching remains a subject of historical debate, there is no doubt that the massacre took place under his command. Another key figure was Masanobu Tsuji, a notoriously ruthless staff officer who played a significant role in shaping the Kempeitai's brutal tactics and justifying the elimination of anti-Japanese elements. The Japanese administration, relying on pre-war intelligence and collaborating with local informants, compiled lists of individuals suspected of anti-Japanese activities or deemed a potential threat to their rule. These lists, often based on flimsy evidence or mere suspicion, targeted a wide range of individuals including former soldiers, civil servants, journalists, intellectuals, wealthy businessmen, and even community leaders. With chilling efficiency, the Kempeitai swung into action. Operation Sook Ching commenced, marking the start of a systematic campaign of roundups, interrogations, and executions that would terrorize Singapore's Chinese community for weeks to come. The Japanese military, driven by a toxic mix of paranoia, racism, and a desire for absolute control, set about transforming the once vibrant city-state into a hunting ground. Section 4. Sites of terror from screening centers to mass graves. The operation to eliminate anti-Japanese elements unfolded with chilling efficiency across Singapore. The Kempeitai established a network of screening centers at strategic locations throughout the island. Schools, community halls, and former British buildings were transformed into makeshift detention centers. Men and boys were rounded up from their homes, workplaces, and even on the streets. Herded into these screening centers, they faced a terrifying ordeal. Interrogations, often conducted through torture, aimed at extracting confessions or identifying other suspects. Those deemed undesirable were marked for elimination. The condemned were loaded onto trucks and transported to execution sites. These sites, chosen for their remoteness, became silent witnesses to unimaginable horrors. Beaches like Changi and Punggol were transformed into killing fields. The condemned were forced to dig their own graves or were mowed down by machine gun fire. The blood of innocent victims stained the sand crimson. Other execution sites included abandoned quarries, secluded forests, and even Chinese temples. Section 5. Extending the web of death, the Sook Ching in Malaya. The Sook Ching Massacre, while primarily centered in Singapore, also cast a long shadow over the Malay Peninsula, then under Japanese military occupation. The same brutal logic that drove the purge in Singapore, the elimination of potential threats to Japanese rule, was applied with equal ruthlessness in Malaya, targeting the significant Chinese population residing there. As in Singapore, the Kempeitai took charge of the operation, establishing screening centers and embarking on a systematic campaign of roundups and executions. Towns and villages across Malaya, from Penang in the north to Johor in the south, witnessed similar scenes of terror. Men were separated from their families, interrogated, tortured, and often executed without trial or mercy. The exact number of victims in Malaya remains shrouded in uncertainty, as it does for the Singapore massacre. The Japanese military, notorious for their meticulous record-keeping in other areas, seemed determined to obscure the true extent of their crimes during the Sook Ching. However, survivor testimonies, historical accounts, and the discovery of mass graves across Malaya paint a grim picture of widespread atrocities. The Sook Ching in Malaya, while often overshadowed by the scale of the massacre in Singapore, stands as a chilling reminder that the horrors of war and occupation transcended geographical boundaries. It also underscores the Japanese military's deep-seated prejudice against the Chinese and their willingness to employ extreme brutality to achieve their objectives.